What are we learning from those who are having the near-death experiences? And we've got a pattern, and we're talking about what happens when people see the great light. There's a change in their life, but is part of this deceptive? And we're talking about, what about children? I think we've talked about children from a theological point of view, as well as what June has been talking about. You've got an illustration. How does it tie in?
I did not want to give the idea that all near-death experiences were evil or demonic. I think there's three basic categories. There's one that's neutral, there's one that's godly or spiritual or biblical, and there's the demonic and the deceptive out there. And you have to look at the experience and evaluate it biblically.
How can you evaluate it?
Okay, you evaluate it by any messages that the being of light or the light gives, by what happens if the person goes into the light and receives...
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Sometimes the being of light or the light will give a message that God is not concerned with your sin here, and that you are automatically going to heaven regardless of your beliefs. Now, biblically, that's not true, because Jesus said that He was the only way to God. So my concern is just for the deception. I've talked to so many people that have had an experience and have come back with the absolute cemented conviction that no matter what they, even though it's been a positive experience, it does not matter what they believe about Jesus Christ in this life. They're going to heaven anyway.
Nancy, jump in here.
What we have just encountered is the heart of the issue here, which is the theological issue. And it's important to me to support something that Howard said earlier, recognizing that you august folk have a deep, reverent point of view. What I hear on the phones, in the letters, from people who have been driven from their churches because, and I'm talking perhaps your churches, because people have characterized their experiences, which they believe absolutely to be of God, life-changing, but if they haven't said the formulaic words acceptable to you, they are driven out, and many of these folk never go back to church. I think it is so urgent to point out that maybe, is it the words you're worried about?
Now, what I'm really worried about is what Scripture teaches is true about God and man and salvation. And I think why many people that have a near-death experience are driven out of the churches is because of that occult experience in the near-death state that teaches unbiblical truths.
I'm talking people who have, I can't tell you how many people have said, I wanted, as Howard did, I wanted to go back to church. I went back to church. People said my experience was demonic, my experience was rooted.
Let me interject here. This is before people have been judged before they have expressed any doctrinal or theological ideas at all. They said they had an experience, and people say, that's from the devil. That's what we have to avoid.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm not judging. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just.
I agree with you.
I'm appealing for an evaluation of an experience that has clearly unbiblical elements, and I think that the church ought to be the first entity that reaches out to these people and attempts to explain these experiences from the perspective of biblical revelation. But I don't think the church can just say, okay, your experiences teach us things that aren't biblical, or that you have started to develop psychic abilities as a result of this, or believe in that everyone's going to heaven and there is no judgment. The church can't accept that.
I completely agree with everything you're saying, okay? I hear you and I agree totally. I'm just saying that we shouldn't judge them before we know what they're about. And the other thing that we should do is to help these people process them, because another way that Satan can work is a person has an experience that they can't even think of the words to describe. Any valid near-death experience, the person can't even articulate what happened to them. And Satan can move in on that person who's very vulnerable, very vulnerable at that time, because something's happened that they can't articulate. and Satan comes in and like interjects a lot of garbage, a lot of occult stuff into them, and they're welcomed into New Age cults with open arms, and the churches are going like, we don't understand it, we're suspicious of it, get out of here.
That's exactly right. It's what Nancy says, I think, is true. No one will fight you, a Christian, more than another Christian.
Yeah.
And it drives them out of the church.